Alright guys, how you guys doing? Welcome to Apple Weekly number 39, the show where I cover everything Apple over the past few days. Before we get started, of course, I'd like to thank our two sponsors, parcelmonkey.com, fantastic courier guys, wanting to send a cheap parcel or courier, very good prices internationally from the UK, which is pretty neat. Also, of course, how can I not mention good old igear.com. Links are on the screen and on the description. Would of course recommend you checking them out. So, continuing on from last week's iPhone 5 rumours, more emerged this week, and this screenshot pretty much says it all. Sprint is blocking the first 2 weeks of October. This is an internal email saying there's going to be a major phone launch. That could always, be an Android phone. That could be a Nokia phone. They are popular. They are beating the iPhone. Insert sarcasm here. Yes, it is going to be the iPhone. I doubt they're going to black out dates for an Android phone. Similarly, in Germany, T-Mobile are starting to give out coupons or vouchers to people who want to get their hands on the iPhone 5. And if you have this, it's a bit like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You get a special golden ticket, and that's what people are getting to get their hands on the iPhone 5 first. And staying on with the iPhone 5 news, somewhere in China, right now, there are iPhone 5s being rolled out on machines. DigiTimes reports there's about 150,000 units per day being manufactured in some plant in China. That number is insane, and that number is not the full capacity. 150,000 is, still meh, 150,000 is not much. 95Mac reports, although they're being manufactured, they aren't being put into boxes or packaging at the moment, simply because the iOS 5 isn't polished off. We are approaching the final beta stages, and there have been some beta released over the past few days. So until iOS 5 is polished, they can get the marketing correct and they can load the correct version on the phones prior to putting it into the package. They're just going to remain naked. And closing off the iPhone 5 stories, this could be the first picture taken from an iPhone 5. This was posted by an Apple engineer eating lunch at his Cupertino kind of cafeteria, and it probably is expensive lunch he's ever had, because this picture has been removed now or taken off, made private. It was public. And it was posted on FlickR. The FlickR page was showing an iPhone 4, but the resolutions were telling an entirely different story. And some people, of course, did some digging around, and this was a GPS location as to where this picture was taken. Needless to say, it was taken down. It must have been a good reason why it was taken down. It could be a prototype, it doesn't have to be the iPhone 5. It could be one of many prototypes they were testing it for cameras. Who knows? But the location, the fact that they took it down, the fact that it's not an iPhone 4 makes it kind of credible. But to be honest, in terms for me, the picture, although as nice as it looks, isn't really interesting to myself. I'm more interested in the HD video and specifically the front-facing camera. I hope they put the front-facing camera HD in this iPhone 5, because the VGA is kind of old school. The next story is in relation to Apple secrecy, and there is no secret. There's been various reports from employees, people who have worked at Apple before, saying Apple is really hands down when it comes to security. They don't take any BS when it comes to that. One of the successful marketing techniques for Apple is being secret. Don't give any hints, don't give any tips, don't give any speculation. Is an iPhone 5 coming? Don't announce it like a year in advance or a few months in advance. And it does pretty well for them, because it just generates that kind of hype. Over the past few days, one of the outside developers who was working with Apple with the first generation iPad last year has come forward and given some more hints or some more stories as to how Apple work, and just in general terms of how seriously they take security. This outside developer was working with Apple to test the software, do the coding, whatever it was software related, and obviously he needed access to the physical device. And he made some very interesting points. The first one is the criteria was that the room that they were in had to have absolutely no windows. The locks were changed on the doors. Only 4 people were allowed in that room. All of them were developers. Their names, their social security numbers were taken from them. Apple literally drilled holes within the desk from the bottom or wherever, so they could put in cable ties and then lock down the iPad itself, so it wasn't removed. Also, the iPad was in some sort of custom frame, so it wasn't in the original format like it is right here. It was in some sort of other casing. It was kind of big. You couldn't see what the actual device looked like. so you know there was no leaks as to what the form factor was. And lastly, probably the funniest thing is Apple took pictures of the desk where the device was chained together to. So basically, if there were any leaks, any pictures, Apple could find which desk it was because they knew the colour, they had the pictures, and then in essence call in the Apple police and take down the perpetrators. As I said in last week's Apple Weekly, Apple are looking to get their own security team or security force together. And they're constantly trying to redesign or revolutionise the kind of security industry. So let's see if any iPad 3 leaks come out, or if any iPhone 5 leaks come out over the next few days. We haven't seen anything kind of concrete in terms of this is the iPhone 5 or this is the iPad 3. We've heard reports, people just kind of supposedly giving insider statements. Moving on, this next story I'm not really going to give much time to. Facebook and Twitter have been implemented in the Apple online store. Boom. Finally. This next story is actually quite interesting. Adobe Premium recently announced that their units sold grew by 50% since they launched the Final Cut Pro X switcher program. So basically, you guys know what happened. Final Cut Pro X was launched. Many people were unhappy. Adobe took opportunity and said, we're going to discount our package so people who don't like Final Cut Pro X can come on to Adobe Premium and they'll get a 50% discount. But here's the thing, if you took part in that program, there was no kind of bit where you put in your Final Cut Pro X credentials. There was nothing to kind of prove that you were indeed using Final Cut Pro X before, or any of the Final Cut Pro suite. So any Tom, Dick and Harry could just go up and take part in that offer. You didn't have to be a Final Cut Pro user. And they also cut the price by 50%. So is that really an indicator of people not liking Final Cut Pro X and making the switch to Adobe Premium? Or is it merely, Adobe cutting the package price down 50%, it's cheaper, the guys using Windows seen this as an opportunity, it's cheaper, let's go and get it. All I'm saying is, if they kept the package price the same as it was originally and not slashing it, then it would have been a definite indicator, like, people don't like Final Cut Pro X, they bought ours, but because you've cut the price down, obviously people are going to buy it, and there was no, definite indicator of saying, yes, this guy did originally come from Final Cut Pro. And last but not least, San Francisco Police Department is carrying out an internal investigation as to what actually happened with the whole, CID officers and Apple security guards raiding a house and carrying out a search and then, not finding the iPhone 5 prototype. I did a full story on this in the last week's episode, so if you haven't seen that, you can always watch that. But there were kind of mixed reaction as to what happened. Did Apple entirely take down this raid, or were they assisted by officers? Some reports even indicated there was actually no raid, but there was a raid. It was basically police officers assisted by 2 Apple security guards. They checked the house, searched the house, nothing was found, and they walked back out. But an internal investigation has started to see what happened. What role did Apple actually play in this? It's kind of funny, I was talking about Apple secrecy earlier in this video, despite Apple having all those security measures in place. And I guess because the supply chain is so extensive, you've got China and you're based in America, Apple is Infinity Loop, and because it's such a large scale thing, it does happen. In this case, although they say it was lost in a bar, it's not really confirmed, or is it confirmed what actually happened, what went down. But I guess in Apple's case, shit happens. But guys, that's it really for this week in Apple. I hope you guys liked it. If you can leave a comment in the comment section below. If you're watching on iTunes, leave it in the kind of ratings/comments bit. If you have any funny stories or reports of anything Apple, then do email me through iGlaswegian.com or tweet at me, Facebook. All the links are on iGlaswegian.com. Guys, as always, I will see you guys in another life. Cheers. Looking to send a package at the lowest price possible? Simple. Visit parcelmonkey.co.uk, follow these 4 simple steps, have the package collected from your doorstep, and then sit back and relax.